mga kababayan, ito po ang kauna-unahan at kaisa-isang pang-araw-araw na produksyon para sa ating mga kababayan dito sa Amerika. We're coming to you from Los Angeles, pero pansamantala po nating iwanan ng Los Angeles dahil alam nyo naman po, ilang araw na sa mga nakaraan, pinag-uusapan natin ang dalawa sa ating mga kababayan that are representing well for us on the Broadway stage, Ana Maria Perez de Tagle and George Salazar of Godspell. And this is an incentive for you, an invitation to go visit them in New York. At kung nandun na po kayo sa New York, sa Big Apple, the city that never sleeps, well, marami pa po kayong magagawa at bibisitahin. Check this out. Marcy, okay, you consider yourself a New Yorker, then you'll be a wealth of resource for people wanting to visit New York. If we were to start with the do's and don'ts of New York, what would those be?
First of all, we New Yorkers don't consider ourselves New Yorkers. We are New Yorkers.
Okay.
That's for sure. The first don't, I would say, is don't assume that New Yorkers aren't super friendly, because we are. 47% of people who live in Manhattan were not even born in the United States. So while the country is a great melting pot, New York is the hub of the melting pot. So there's no one New Yorker. New Yorkers are all of us from all over. So people have a misconception that New Yorkers are rude or they're pushy or they're unfriendly. But New Yorkers are everybody. They're every nationality. They're from every country, every walk of life. And so while you're walking down the street, if you don't speak a lot of English, if you turn to your left or you turn to your right, there'll be someone who speaks your language and who's ready and willing and really wanting to help you.
Another don't?
Another don't is don't think like a Southern Californian, because we make fun of people from California and we say in California you are what you drive. In New York, 65% of people who live in Manhattan don't own cars. The average rent for a studio apartment is $2,000. The average rent for one bedroom is $3,000, and the average rents for two bedrooms start at $5,000.
Wow, expensive.
Expensive. And then to garage that, a car would be average with taxes about $550 a month.
And so I also hear that one of the do's is always carry flat shoes, because there's going to be a lot of walking involved.
Always carry flat shoes, absolutely. And if you're going to hail a cab, at any given time, there are 19,000 cabs going all around the city. The taxi cab was invented, the yellow color, the yellow cab was invented by John Hertz. We like our trivia in New York because we're proud of it. And he picked yellow because that would be an easy color to spot at any time. So, and the taxi cab drivers are also misconception that taxi cab drivers can be rude, but they're not rude to the people they get into a fight with each other over a fare. But once you're in the cab, you're again with somebody who could be of your own culture or where you're from, and taxi cab drivers can be really fun and informative too.
And I noticed that sometimes, especially with the traffic, it's faster to just walk.
It is. Or we have the other alternative, which is the subway. Again, we New Yorkers love to give facts. There are about 800 miles of underground subway in New York. And unlike Paris, or where they have the King Metro and many of the European cities, while the subways may not be as clean, they're very interesting in the fact that our musicians that play there, whether the vocalists or people who play instruments themselves, have to go through a rigorous audition process just to be able to perform in the subway.
Really? Wow.
And many of them are renowned performers at Carnegie Hall. So while you can hear amazing music in the subways, you still have to be careful because the subway, the rules of safety and vigilance and anything can happen on the subway and you have to be ready for it. But while you have to, again, take care of your safety, while that's happening, this is something that makes New York wonderful. You can be listening to the Carnegie Hall quality music.
How wonderful. And I also like the city because it's not just bustling with current activities and modernism. There's also a lot of history involved.
Right. There is a lot of history. And when people come to New York, people want to do the typical things like visit Central Park or go to the top of the Empire State Building. Many New Yorkers don't ever do that because it's always here and we know, and we just go when someone from out of town. We never get around to doing it, but if we have to show a friend or family member, then we go. But there are also some other interesting tours that might not be so obvious. And one of my favorite is to visit the Frick Museum. That was a limestone mansion that was built at the turn of the century by Henry Clay Frick. And it houses one of the largest private, well now it's public because he donated it to the city of New York, but art collections, Picasso's and Renoirs, and his furniture is actually in there. So what's really neat about visiting the Frick Museum, which is really his mansion, the Frick family lived there. It was a mother, father, and daughter on the second floor, and on the first floor were 27 servants. And in 1935, the family, they purchased it in 1911, and in 1935 they sold it. They didn't sell it, they donated it, to the city of New York as a museum. And what's nice about it is it's not as big and as the Met, and so you can finish it in like an hour and a half, and you don't want to leave though, because you're really transported in time to this beautiful home, and you can see how the ultra rich lived, and there's beautiful gardens, and it's just small enough that it's not exhausting and daunting, and you really feel a good sense of what it was like to live in New York at the turn of the century. And it's right across from Central Park, and Central Park was there. Another New York fact that we New Yorkers like to brag about: Central Park is completely man-made. The whole country of Monaco can fit right in the middle of Central Park.
Wow.
And it's 150 years old. And so when you visit the Frick Museum, you can just imagine what it was like to live in during that time.
And the best way to experience New York is to dive right in. Live as a local for a few days, and Apartment Lux is there to help you do just that. It's not your typical hotel. Some of these apartments and buildings are in different neighborhoods around Manhattan, and you get to live like a local for a few days. So for your next New York trip, call Apartment Lux. We will be back for more back here in Los Angeles naman sa pagbabalik ng Kababayan LA. Don't go away.